Hello and welcome to the FATBOSS guide to the Blackwater Behemoth on Mythic.
Now this fight actually has a bit of a bite to it. If you go in and just wing it like you probably did on Heroic, then you're likely just gonna die. With that being said, if you understand the dangers that this fight has and just go through it cleanly, this boss shouldn't give you too many issues.
So let's jump straight into it and talk about the only brand new ability in the fight, which is Piercing Barb. The boss on a timer will mark a player with a beam, and 6 seconds later he will shoot out a projectile towards them that will deal lethal damage to that player. But this damage is split between all players it passes through towards the marked target. If you are marked, you need to make sure that you move away from the boss so that as many players as possible can stand within the beam while still remaining spread 5 yards apart from one another. This will help split the damage of the barb so you survive, whilst also minimising the amount of damage people are going to take immediately afterwards from the bioelectric feelers. The barb deals nature damage and can be immune by a ton of spells such as Cloak, Turtle, Ice Block, Neverwalk, etc, but things like Blessing of Protection won't work. If you're going to solo, make sure that you call it so nobody else goes in your beam, as they will take the damage even if you're in an immunity. Do note that you cannot feign death, invis or vanish this cast. If you do that, the boss will just instantly throw it at you, which will just one-shot you. When you go to soak the beams, especially on later platforms, be very careful of the cracks on the floor, because you don't really want to float in the open waters while soaking and just be one-shot by the fish that spawns. But if you do need to use that space, then just make sure you soak late and leave early. Now, as melee can be targeted by this spell, we recommend that you either set up a Warlock gateway towards the range camp, or have the melee player life gripped each time by a priest so that the entire raid can help soak the ability. This is generally easier than having the melee sort it themselves, especially if you don't have a large amount of them. But aside from that, for the barb, you'll just want to make sure that you generally have the raid in the same area as one another, just so they can help soak the damage that little bit quicker.
Now whilst you are within the same area, you really need to spread on Mythic for the bioelectric feelers. This stuff hurts a lot and will very quickly put your healers behind if people aren't paying attention to it. The main dangerous point with the feelers is when you go to pick up the pufferfish buff, as the majority of the raid wants to enter the same space. You should just try coming in from different angles and heights just to avoid proccing damage onto each other. You should also use personal cooldowns and a defensive healer cooldown for each time you need to grab a pufferfish, especially on the second puffer per platform, as this will overlap with the shock pulse or the piercing barb abilities. But aside from that, a few other small tips that should help you out in this fight. 1. Make sure that you give healers positioning priority on all platforms, especially the second one. They need to have range of the melee group, which means they actually need to be much closer to the boss than the ranged DPS. 2. On the last platform, if you can't kill the boss before your pufferfish buff times out for a second time, save large damage reductions for shock pulses when you're healing immune just to survive that little bit longer. And 3, if you are ahead on the last platform, say you get there and the boss is on around 30% health and you have some battle reses available, feel free to just have people solo the piercing barb and then just res them afterwards, as splitting the damage safely on this smaller platform is actually quite difficult. But aside from that, there isn't a whole lot else that is different from Heroic. Make sure that your pufferfish killing time is on point, with one dying at the beginning of each platform and the other dying just before your debuff times out, and you shouldn't really have too many issues.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to have a handy written guide for you to refer to during your raids with detailed tooltips and images, then do go check out our written guide over on Wowhead. A link for that can be found in the description below, and we will see you all in the next one.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.